Welcome, everybody, to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama. And on this first episode of 2026, we are bringing you a topic that I don't think we've ever talked about on Mom Street before, and that is taking animals to Disney. So, today we're going to be talking about two different aspects of taking your animals with you to Disney. The first is if you've got a pet going with you, what kind of some options are that you have, if that's something that you'd like to explore. And the second one is going to talk just briefly about service animals because I feel like there are service animals that are such a big part of our just population now, especially at the Disney parks. So I wanted to just take a brief moment to touch on what service animals are able to do and unable to do in the parks for anybody that's going, because I think that we could all stand to be a little further educated on things like that. So that is the goal for today, as we kind of kick off 2026 with our podcast here. Thank you guys all so much for being here for this first episode. Thank you for continuing to support us as we kind of shift away from our partnership with Chip and Co. and go to our kind of fully self-contained feed now for Mom Street. But we've got a lot of really great topics coming this year that we've already started to plan for in the first coming weeks. So we're really excited to continue this journey with you guys. So, all that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. So, like I said, today we are going to discuss two different aspects when taking animals to Disney. One is, again, taking pets, and the second is going to be service animals. So, we're going to talk about taking pets to Disney first. And there are kind of some different things to know that I feel like not a lot of the general public knows when they're visiting the Disney parks, and that is that Disney has 4 pet-friendly resorts. So there are actually 4 of the resorts on Disney property that you are able to have your pets with you when you travel. Now, this episode is not really going to touch on any of the surrounding resorts or hotels or good neighbor hotels or anything like that, because that gets really in the weeds and kind of to be almost too much information when it comes to thinking about taking your animals with you. So we're just going to focus on the actual Disney resorts today. So the first of that is that, like I said, Disney's got 4 of them. So Art of Animation, Port Orleans Riverside, the Yacht Club, and then the cabins at Fort Wilderness, with also the campsites at Fort Wilderness being an option as well. So kind of a 2 for 1 if you're attending or if you're planning to visit Fort Wilderness. So the nice thing about this is that there's one in each price range category at least. So Art of Animation hits your value resort category. Port Orleans Riverside is a moderate, and then Yacht Club is your deluxe. So I like that they kind of have at least one at every level, so that way you have some options whenever you're visiting. Do note that at the moment, dogs are the only pets that are actually allowed in the resort rooms. So if you are someone that is planning to travel with another type of animal, we'll get to that in just a moment here. They are not actually allowed. So cats or other small animals are not allowed at those Disney resorts. So they are just dog friendly resorts. There is a maximum when you're visiting Disney with dogs of 2 dogs per room. So if you're someone that's got a whole herd, you keep in mind that you're only allowed to have 2 per room. So that may adjust what you're trying to do or adjust your plans. So just keep those things in mind as you are planning. Disney does note that dogs are, quote, expected to be well behaved, leashed in public areas, and properly vaccinated. So, again, something else to keep in mind. Upon arrival, your dog will actually be greeted with their own little welcome kit from Pluto. They call it Pluto's welcome kit that you'll receive. And it's like a little drawstring bag with some goodies inside of it. So, what you get included inside is a room occupied dog sign. So that kind of lets like mousekeeping or maintenance or anybody else know that you've got a dog in your room with you. They give you a singular food slash water bowl that you can use, and then a little like bone shaped mat to go underneath it, which is super cute. They give you a little clip on carrier of potty bags if you have happen to run out or have forgotten to bring yours. They do give you a little one of those, and please be courteous and clean up after your pets if you're taking them anywhere on Disney property. And then also a little Disney tag, dog tag that has a little I think it's got a little Pluto on it. So all of those things you actually receive upon check-in, which is a fun little bag of goodies for you and your doggy friends that are visiting the Disney parks. And just a quick note, we'll talk a little bit about the parks here momentarily with what animals are allowed to do and not allowed to do. But just note that pets are not permitted in the theme parks or water parks. So service animals are a different story. And again, we'll talk about that in the second half of today's episode. But do keep in mind that pets are not permitted to go to the theme parks or water parks with you. So, just some things to note. Now, along with those four dog friendly resorts on property, Disney also has what is called the Best Friends Pet Care. So, this is a location that is on Disney property, and think of it like you would kind of think of like a traditional boarding facility or like a doggy daycare type facility. So it is called Best Friends Pet Care, and they're actually a national company that's got several locations across the country. So it's not just for Disney, but they partner with Disney to have one on property. They can take dogs, cats, and other small pets. So if you are someone that is going to be traveling to the parks and you've got a cat with you or another small animal, this is a great option for you. So this hotel includes, so they call it a hotel for your animals, 17,000 square feet of air conditioning indoor space, 10,000 square feet of covered outdoor runs and play areas, a 25,000 square foot dog park. The nice thing is that on their website, they actually have some virtual tours available. So you're able to kind of look at the facility before you get there. Do keep in mind that you have to have a reservation and a deposit required for your stay. And we'll talk about the details of what they kind of offer here in just a moment. But keep in mind that reservations and a deposit are required. And a lot of that is actually done straight through their website. They do have a phone number you can call if you've got like questions or want to chat with somebody about your needs or concerns. They have that available as well. As far as the hours go, there's a couple different options that they have, and we'll talk about that here momentarily. And I'll give you some kind of starting ranges for prices. But they do have just daily boarding or daily visiting, and then they also have overnight. If you are doing the daily option, their hours are 1 hour prior to park open until 1 hour after parks close. So, it really just depends on what park you're visiting for the day, but they are at least gonna be open an hour before that park opens and closed. They won't close until an hour after the last park closes. Those hours do include special events that are happening at the parks. So, if you are someone that's visiting during, like, Not So Scary Halloween Party or Very Merry Christmas Party and they have those extended hours for that, those are included in the hours that they plan for. So that's a really nice perk. Same thing would go for things like the after hours ticketed events or Moonlight Magic events or any of those types of things. They do take that into consideration. So the hours do fluctuate. It's not just a set, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. type of thing. So you really need to make sure you're looking at park hours for your visit and then just confirming with the employees at the Best Friends Pet location what their hours are for the day to make sure that you are being considerate of those with your animal that you're dropping off. Um, this starts for the daily boarding at $59 per day. Again, that's your starting cost, and there's lots of other things that you can include in that will allow your cost to vary. So it's hard for me to say like, "Yep, you're gonna pay $60 a day," because if you want extra playtime or extra treats or, indoor playtime or, like, group playtime, there's so many different little, like, à la carte things that you can add to that, that really will make your amount that you're paying completely vary. So it really just depends when it comes to that. Couple things to note that you are able to bring from home. So they provide all of the bedding, the food dishes, things like that. They will provide for you, but they do suggest bringing food and treats from home for your pets. You can bring up to 2 toys for your pet from home, and they do also suggest, like, a T-shirt or something that smells like home just to help comfort your animal because they will be, in a new place away from you. So those are all things that they do allow for you to bring in for drop off for boarding. So let's talk about overnight boarding. And some of this kind of will also transfer to daytime when I talk about the different extras and things that you can book for your stay. So for overnight, prices start for dogs. Sorry, I'm going to go into three different categories here: dogs, cats, and then other small animals. So for dogs, prices start at $67 per night, and they have several different package options. But they all include obviously like potty breaks and walks, bedding, and bowls. So that's the minimum of what you can expect from them if you decide to take your dog there. There are lots of extras that I'll talk about here in just a second. Higher level packages will include things like access to outdoor patios, webcams where you can like log in and see what your animal is doing, TVs that they can watch. So the prices for some of these higher level packages range anywhere from 120 per day up to $325 per day. Again, it really just depends on what it is that you want for your animal when they're visiting there. Some of the extras that you can have added on to your package include things like, and I mentioned some of these already, but I'm going to go run down this list to make sure that I didn't forget anything. A play group time, playtime one-on-one with the staff member, extra cuddle time, a walk and explore time, so like extra long walk times and outdoor times, fancy bottled water if you have a dog that prefers that, a bedtime story, an ice cream treat break, a special holiday meal, and then a premium bedding option. So again, all of those are different like add-ons that you can add on to your time, and they range in prices as you can imagine. So it's really tailored to what it is that you want for your animal, which is kind of nice. So that's kind of the general rundown of your dog options. For cats, they have two different base level packages that you can do. And it really just has to do with how much space you want for your animal to have when they're staying there. So they have what they call a two-level condo for cats, and that is, the price for that is 36 per day or starts at 38 for overnight. And then they also have a four-level, what they call a town home, so 4 levels for them to explore, and that price for that starts at 45 per day and $50 for overnight. And again, they've got lots of extras. I love that. So in their extras, they have playtime, but then they also have a cookies and milk option if that's something that your cat would enjoy. They have what they call tuna on a Ritz, which is literally just like tuna fish on a Ritz cracker, special activity toys, and then a deluxe kitty bed. So again, lots of options that you can add for your kitty to enjoy their time while you are enjoying your time in the parks. Um, the other thing that they do offer is small pet boarding. So this was really interesting to me when I went to research because I would not have guessed that this is something that they offer, because you don't really think about boarding or sending to daycare some of these smaller animals, but they do offer this for small pets. The guest who is bringing the animal must provide their own enclosure for small pets. This does include things like birds, reptiles, and rodents. Please note that despite them allowing smaller pets, they do not accommodate anything that is venomous. So, for obvious reasons, they've got to kind of protect themselves, their staff, and the other animals, and no primates. So, if you happen to be somebody out there listening that has a primate for a pet, they are unfortunately unable to go to this location. But they do offer for other small pets, and the rates for these are actually based on the size of the enclosure. So this will be determined when you like go to check in, and they will kind of see what kind of space it is that they're looking at allowing you to utilize for the day. So they just basically put it in four different size categories: small, medium, large, extra large. So small starts at $19 per day, medium starts at $23 per day, large is 28, and extra large is 32. So lots of options for whatever type of animal, despite or except for if they are venomous or a primate, that you may need to house at this location while you are traveling. Now, again, keep in mind, you have to be really aware of the fact that Disney resorts only offer the abilities for dogs to stay in the rooms. So anything else other than that, keep that in mind, right? And make sure that if you're looking to make a reservation, make sure that your reservation is accommodating so that those animals don't have to travel to the resort with you, because that would not be what Disney allows for their policies. So, again, a little bit of coordinating and figuring all of that out. Now, a couple other things that they do offer there, they do also have a full service grooming space at this location. So, while your animal is there, if they are in need of any or wanting to get any sort of pampering done. They do have a full grooming salon there. So they offer basic things just like a shampoo and a cut. They offer flea treatments, pedicures, skin treatments, all sorts of stuff. Basically, anything you could imagine that a normal grooming salon would offer, they also have that. So the price breakdown for that, again, is going to vary based on the packages that you choose, because it's just like any other grooming salon where they've got the add-ons with, teeth or nails or special kinds of shampoo and conditioner and all that kind of thing. So they just break down the price based on size, and they give you a starting value. So a small dog that's less than 25 pounds is going to start at $51 for a grooming treatment or a grooming session. Medium dogs would be 25 to 50 pounds, starts at 61. Large dogs, which would be 50 to 75, starts at $86. And an extra large dog, which would be 75 or more pounds, starts at 131. They do also offer grooming for cats, but there's no like price breakdown for that available on their website. So the prices vary for cats if you are someone looking to take a cat to get groomed at this location. And do just note for all pets that are visiting the Best Friends Pet Hotel in any capacity, whether it's daytime boarding, overnight boarding, grooming, all of that, they must be up to date with their vaccines. So written proof is required from your veterinarian. So you definitely need to plan accordingly ahead of time to make sure that you have that. You will have to either present a copy upon check-in, or you can always ask your vet's office to fax it, and they've got their information on their website readily available for you. So you definitely want to make sure that you plan ahead for that, just like you would plan ahead for making sure you have, your real ID to fly, or you have all of your reservation information ready. You got to make sure that your documentation for your animal is there as well. So all of that is kind of the basic fast and furious rundown of what it's like to take pets with you. So it again, there are 4 resorts that you wanna consider, and staying at one of those is gonna be the only way to keep your dog with you for the entire time. Now, you could obviously have your dog go to the pet-friendly resort, or the Best Friends Pet Care when you go to the parks, so that way you have that peace of mind of not having, if you're worried about coordinating taking like an afternoon break to go, let them out, you obviously don't want to leave your doggo in your room for longer than, the hours that they're typically used to being left alone. So just lots of coordinating to kind of consider and keep in mind when it comes to that. And also keeping in mind the fact that, especially at places like Art of Animation, and I mean, really, honestly, any of these resorts, chances are good that people are coming and going in their rooms around you at all times of day. So if you've got a doggo that has a really hard time being alone, and maybe they're a little more vocal when they're alone, things to consider when you are taking your dog with you. You don't want them barking and waking up a kiddo that's trying to nap next to you. You don't want them stressing themselves out because they're missing you while you're gone. So just lots of things to consider. You consider this anyway when you leave your pet. If you've got a house sitter or you leave them in a boarding facility, by your house in your hometown. So just lots of things to be able to consider when it comes to that. And also considering the fact that you want your animal to be okay with the fact that people may need to be coming in and out of your room. So, mousekeeping, or if there's a maintenance concern or request that you have to make, you want to make sure that your dog is going to be fine with people coming in and out that aren't you. So, again, lots of things to consider when you're taking your animals to Disney, but just wanted to give you kind of that rundown of information regarding kind of what Disney allows and what they offer when it comes to taking pets. So, I do, before, like I said, before we wrap up, I do just want to talk briefly about service animals. Like I touched on at the beginning of this episode, I think we all could stand to have some education on service animals. They are such an integral part for so many people across the country and the world. And you will run into them at the Disney parks, whether it's at the resorts, at Disney Springs, inside the parks. Chances are good that on your trip, you're going to see at least one service animal. So, we're going to talk just briefly about kind of what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. This is not meant to be like a full encompassing section on if you are trying to bring a service animal, but I've got some good information for kind of all involved, so that way we can all be a little more educated about service animals in the parks. So let's talk about service animals. I do think that this is helpful information so that we can all be informed and aware of service animals that we are, like I said, basically, it's a guarantee that you're going to encounter something like that while you're visiting the Disney parks. Just a quick reminder from me as a mom and a person and an annual pass holder that visits the Disney parks. Um, no matter when you see an animal in public, whether you think it's a service animal or not, you always, and teach your kids to always ask the owner and handler before approaching any animal in public, especially working animals, if they've got a vest on, if they've got notices on their leash or their collar that they are working. You always want to be respectful of that and give them their space, and make sure that you are asking before you do anything around that dog, not trying to distract it, not trying to pet it, not trying to get its attention. Let it do what it needs to do, and feel free to ask the owner and handler, and they may say yes or no. So just be prepared for that. And definitely coach your kids to be prepared for that as well. Because I know it can be hard when you see a fluffy dog in public. You wanna just go up and pet it and interact with it, but always be mindful of that and make sure your kiddos are mindful of that too. So Disney allows service dogs or miniature horses to come to the parks. That is right. That is what I said. That is Disney policy. Service dogs and miniature horses. That is what they allow for service animals into the parks. Um, that being said, each attraction in the parks will have a different plan for service animals. So, we're going to talk about attractions. We're going to talk about just some other general information for service animals here. But each attraction has a different plan. It really just depends. So, you always want to make sure, if you are traveling with a service animal, that you're asking the cast member at the entrance to each attraction what their procedure is for that. So, some will permit the animal to ride with you. Some attractions will have kennels that the service animal can go to while you ride. And if that is the case, a cast member will stay with the animal until you have completed your ride and you come back, around to fetch them at the end. Sometimes, depending on your party size, who's in your group, the attraction, sometimes a cast member may have you utilize like a rider switch option, so that a member of your party is always with the service animal. So if they are a location that just doesn't have the ability to have a kennel, or the animal's not able to ride with you, that is an option that you may see as well. So kind of one of those three options are typically what you're going to find at these attractions. Just a quick rundown of the attractions for what your animal is able to ride or not ride with you at each park. So at Magic Kingdom, service animals can ride everything except for basically the coasters: Barnstormer, Big Thunder Mountain, Seven Dwarfs Space Mountain, Tron, but also Tiana's Bayou and Peter Pan's Flight. Now, Peter Pan, you might be like, well, that's just a slow, dark ride. It's the height, right? Those ships are open on the side, so it's not a safely enclosed area for the animal to be. So, all except for Barnstormer, Big Thunder Mountain, Peter Pan, Seven Dwarfs, Space Mountain, Tiana's, and Tron. At Epcot, the ones they can ride are Frozen, Grand Fiesta with the Three Caballeros, Journey into Imagination with Figment, Living with the Land, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Spaceship Earth. So a huge list at Epcot that your service animal can ride with you. Um, at Animal Kingdom, the only attraction currently, now we know there's lots of construction going on over there, but the only attraction they currently are able to ride is Navi River Journey. Also, be aware if you are taking a service animal to Animal Kingdom, several of the walking paths have areas that service animals are not permitted, unfortunately. So, things like aviaries, those service animals are not permitted to be in those locations. So, again, if you're taking a service animal to Animal Kingdom, I would highly suggest just stopping at guest services and just having a quick conversation with them about like, okay, where are we good? Where are we not? Want to make sure that all of the animals involved, your service animal and the animals that live in Animal Kingdom, are all being taken care of in that situation. At Hollywood Studios, the ones that they can ride are just Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway and Toy Story Mania. They obviously could also attend the shows and things. There's lots of those at Hollywood Studios as well. So things to consider with that. Just briefly going to talk about Disneyland here for a second. We haven't touched much on Disneyland on this podcast lately, and I want to get back more into that. But just a quick note that Disneyland does have a lot of the same stipulations that Disney World does. Disneyland does not have any pet friendly like resorts like we talked about with Disney World or the like hotel boarding option, but they do obviously allow the service animals in. So if you're visiting Disneyland, very similar to what we heard at Magic Kingdom, they can ride everything except for most of the coasters. So they cannot ride Big Thunder Mountain, a Gadgets Go coaster. They cannot do Indiana Jones, the Matterhorn, Space Mountain, Star Tours, and Tiana's there. And then California Adventure, they can ride the Golden Zephyr, the Inside Out Whirlwind, Critter Carousel, Little Mermaid, Monsters Inc., the Pixar Pal Around, Toy Story Mania, and Web Slinger. So different options there, if you're looking West Coast, just briefly wanted to mention that as I was doing my research. Just a couple other things to note in this kind of fast and furious surface animal chat here, is that service animals are not permitted in any bodies of water on property. So that includes things like water features, splash pads, fountains, obviously pools, things like that. And also keep in mind that they are not permitted to be within 4 feet of the water on wet decks. So if you are somewhere where there are boat launches or boat docks, just be aware that you want to make sure that you're giving plenty of space between your service animal and the water, mostly for your animal's safety, especially down in Florida. You never know what you may find in those waters across property when it comes to lakes, lagoons, things like that. You want to make sure you're giving plenty of space for that. And just a quick note about service animal relief areas. This I feel like is something that we could all use a little bit more information on. And that is that Disney's policy is that service animals are welcome to use any outdoor space area for relief as long as the owner is cleaning up after the animal and leaving the area clean. So, yes, there are designated relief areas, which we'll talk about just in a moment here. But keep in mind that Disney's policy does allow them to use any open outdoor area for relief as long as it is cleaned up after. So those designated relief areas do exist all across property if that is something that you prefer to do just to keep it simple, but sometimes things happen. So at all of the resorts at Disney Springs, at all of the parks, you are going to find these designated service animal relief areas. The easiest way to find them is actually just using your My Disney Experience app. So it is an option that you can search on the map feature there. You can also find them on like the paper maps you pick up at the entrance to any park that you're visiting for the day. But if you're looking to find them on your My Disney Experience app, you are going to click on the map option on your app. So open your app and then down along the bottom, you're going to hit that little pin to get the map to pop up. Then across the top, there's going to be a bunch of options that populate. You're going to select the guest services option from the top. And then I suggest the easiest way to do it is to click the show list function then in the bottom right corner. And that's going to populate a whole list of all of the guest service type things you may be looking for in the parks. You're going to scroll down to where it says service animals, and you're going to click that selection. It's going to bring up just a little description of, what that feature shows on the map. And then you're going to click find on map. That will then repopulate the map that you can zoom in and scroll around on to locate the closest designated area. Now, you do want to be kind of aware of where you are on the map because it doesn't. The one thing that I don't love about this map is it doesn't do a great job of like showing your pin of where you are once you get to that service animal map. So you want to make sure you kind of look at where you are in general vicinity on the map before you start zooming because otherwise you may end up across property, not where you're trying to view that. So again, like I said, all parks and resorts have several designated spaces to utilize for that, for anybody who may need it. And just a quick note that some people here on our live chat as we're recording this were mentioning, just a quick reminder to anybody that is bringing any sort of an animal to Florida, especially a little bit in Disneyland also, but primarily in Florida. It gets extremely warm in Florida. That also translates to parking lot surfaces, walking past surfaces, sidewalks, all of that. So just please be aware of that, especially if you're somebody that's coming from the north, that maybe you don't have to worry about that, or maybe you have a giant backyard that your dog typically gets their exercise in and you're not used to taking them on walks as often or things like that. Just be aware of that when you're thinking about your pet and traveling with them to the Florida theme parks, protecting their little toes from that hot pavement with booties, or they make little, crocs. They make little um, almost like sticker pads that you can put on their paw pads to protect them. Lots of options, little socks, whatever it is that works best for you and your situation and your particular animal or animals that you're bringing with you. You want to make sure that you are taking that into account to best protect their toes because not only will you be doing a lot of walking and exploring in the parks, but they will be too. So you want to make sure you're taking care of them, and also do note that not only for yourself to stay hydrated, but also for your animals. You can always ask at quick service locations for water, whether that's just a small water cup to pour into a bowl for your dog while you're out and about. And that goes for resorts too. So if you've got a pet that you're out walking and they need some water and you're by the pool bar, ask them for a quick cup of water to help your animal out to make sure that you're taking care of them because you want to make sure that they have just as much fun as you have when you are visiting the Disney theme parks. So, like I said, kind of a fast and furious little quick rundown on taking animals to Disney. Um, Coming up on Mom Street USA, we're going to have a lot of really fun topics. We've got some new hub episodes coming your way. We've got all sorts of fun things. As always, if you've got a suggestion for a future topic or episode that you want us to cover, please reach out to us. You can find us momstreetusa@gmail.com. And if you have comments about this episode, comments about other episodes, things you want to chat about, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. Best way to do that is to find our accounts on social media. We are at Mom Street USA on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all of those places. So feel free to reach out. And also make sure that you have headed over to our Patreon account. This is our newest way of communicating with our Mom Street community and audience. Lots of information over there, including sneak peeks about what upcoming episodes are happening. There have been giveaways over there, lots of fun information over there. 90% of it is free over there, so definitely no official subscription needed when it comes to that. But just want to make sure that everybody knows that that is available for you guys as well. So, all of that being said, thank you so much for joining me for this first episode of 2026 of Mom Street USA. I appreciate your support. Thanks for being here, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye, everyone.